We are live here for a few minutes. A couple of updates. I'm processing a ton of orders right now, both art and PSYOP cards, so that's all happening kind of behind the scenes, but I've been working on this book I've been talking about. Working title was Handbook for the Recently Deprogrammed, but as of right now, it's a series of videos entitled The IPSD Program, A Skeptic's Guide to the Theater of Psy-War. And I'm releasing it as a series of videos. Each video consists of a chapter. And I'm using AI tools, voices, and otherwise, because what I want to do is I want to get the entire book out essentially as an audiobook. And as soon as it's complete, since I've gone through everything, I've had some time to refine it. When it's complete, when I have all 50 or so chapters uploaded, then I'm going to publish it as a book. And so far, I've exported about a third of it as audio. And last night I uploaded about 4 videos. I think 4 to members. And so those are going to go out to members first, and then at midnight they go live. So that's going to be the process. So if you're a member on the YouTube channel, you can just go watch those videos until midnight tonight. But let's go over the notes. So I picked up a printer because oftentimes I'm out in the field or I'm driving around and I don't have access to my computer. And sometimes I want to go over things. For example, people's quotes or even tweets. So I'm actually tending to print out a lot of my minds.com receipts for the purposes of just discussion. By the way, there was this incident where it looked like a bag of trash had been thrown out of one of the upper windows of the White House. And so people are wondering, well, what was that? What did they throw out? A lot of conjecture. And they asked Donald Trump about it. And he explained that those windows are bulletproof, immovable, 600 pounds, impossible to open. So he told the news, and this is a quote, well, he told them it was AI. He said, the good thing about AI is if something bad happens, blame AI. And that's kind of funny because now you've got plausible deniability for anything. Just blame it on AI. It's plausible. But it's kind of surreal to watch the President of the United States essentially auto-hoaxing video content on behalf of the engagement bait media. All right, so let's see what we have here. Oh, by the way, for like the last about 9 or 10 months, I've been debating back and forth with simulation people. Simulation, now it's not a theory. It's a hypothesis at best. And it sucks at that. Because what it truly is, and this is why I'm bringing it up. You know, a lot of the times we're discussing the news, we're discussing the coincidental alignments between mainstream entertainment and what's happening in the news. It's a common part of what we do. And oftentimes we get these simulationists, simulationism, because it's a religious paradigm. They come in and they say, you know, you're making all these interesting connections between movies and shooting psyops, but it's not man doing it. Man couldn't do it. This is higher than man. This is, in fact, the simulation. And we're all just video game characters. And I'm like, okay, we tolerate this. We've tolerated this for some time. And a lot of it is because, of course, you have synchro mystics who also argue that the correlation between entertainment and news psyops is a result of synchronicity, which is another way of saying the universe. And it generally leads into the sim. But what these have in common, sim, sync, is that these both rely upon the divine fallacy. And it would be the exact same thing if someone said, well, you know, God's writing all the psyops. God wrote Sandy Hook. Forget about the crisis actors. God inspired the DHS to collude with the government and produce this drill and make it seem real. Like, I'm sorry, but like, God has nothing to do with it. We don't need to introduce God as a cause when we're investigating a crime. Like, the devil made him do it. Well, no, let's investigate and see if the person's guilty. Well, ultimately, it's the devil's fault. You see, my point here is that they're taking their eyes off the ball. Instead of looking at the mechanism of mass deception, the synchronization between entertainment and psyops, the media ecosystems, the echo chambers it creates, instead of looking at that, they ignore it. And they say it must be higher than man, which is a non-answer, and it's an intellectual cul-de-sac. So what we have brought forth as the think tank, and this is a topic that's going to be in the next set of videos I'm putting up, is the meta script. Now, this is not a theory. It's not a hypothesis. It's an observation. And I can say so confidently because we've been paying attention. This is based on empirical research. Once you get past the idea that coincidental alignments between entertainment and news are not mere coincidences, but are in fact propaganda insertions, once you recognize that these are just parallel propaganda streams, one goes to news, one goes to entertainment, and they all hit the same person, you, but they're coming from the same source. Once you recognize that these are parallel streams, then you can look back and you can say, wait a minute here. Fake news events, simulated events, psyops, and influence operations have always been in play. And they have always influenced the news cycles. In fact, the fake events, which constitute only a fraction of all the news, these become the dominant stories that everyone else focuses on. So the fake does, in fact, guide the entire news cycle every single time. So all of our news cycles get focused around the fake. So nobody here is saying everything is fake. That is a straw man take on what we're doing here. Anybody who claims that we're calling everything fake is intellectually lazy and dishonest. Not to mention, they don't have a point. Because the cumulative effect of fake news over years, over decades, what do you think that cumulative effect is? Well, it results, and this is what I'm saying, this is empirical research, it results in all of us having the same frame of reference, framed by the same lies. It's like we're in a theocracy and we all adhere to the same holy book. So we have a shared frame of reference, a shared POV. Now, within that point of view, there's some variations. You got the conspiracy theorists, which I call MSM+, mainstream being MSM. You've got the wokes on the left, which is still MSM+. They just add on to the regular media slop that everyone else has. There is no platform, there are no pundits, there are no influencers who are not operating from this POV, this particular point of view. It doesn't exist. And I call this the world stage. So the world stage is the consensus version of things that we see played out on the nightly news every single day. The world stage is a record of humanity. It's our history. But when you recognize the world stage has an author, it's scripted, that our history is scripted, that it's being performed for the purposes of worldview monopoly, maintaining this, keeping us all in the same box, then you can understand why I'm calling it a meta script. What is the big picture? Where are we being collectively steered? And the concept of a meta script actually isn't that new. The New Age movement is predicated on the idea of an initiated elite guiding the masses through aeons, through, like, in fact, the main New Age philosophy right now, which comes out of like the OTO, one of the main premise here is that we're entering into a new aeon. That they're getting rid of the sun god And they're replacing it with an androgynous god, who is a combination of the sun and the moon, the god and the goddess, and that this androgen is represented by in the OTO in particular, by the Egyptian god Horus, the falcon-headed god, associated with Mars. And this all makes sense when you look at the Mars project, man moving to Mars, and what that entails. Sustainability, the abandonment of our political and economic systems that are destroying the earth, leaving behind the things that are considered traditional. It's basically, Mars is going to be progressive. Don't think they're going to Mars as a bunch of Amish or as a bunch of, it's not going to be MAGA ban. It's a progressive utopian thing built upon the premise of sustainability. It's a rejection of the West. So the age of Mars, the age of Horus, this new age is really reshaping humanity. That is the script. And it's interesting, too, to look at how Elon Musk was foreshadowed in Wernher von Braun's book, Mars, A Technical Tale, being the first to colonize Mars and set up something equivalent to the Roman papacy, which is why we affectionately dubbed him Pope Elon. Shout out to One-Eyed Jack. Deprogram Truther said, I watched one of those episodes this morning on Substack. Yeah, I put number 1 on Substack just so you can get an idea. But like I said, there's about 50 of these videos that constitute the book. And I'm using the process of making videos to do a final edit. You know, I mean, it's a 330-page manuscript, but the idea with editing is to really chop it down, get rid of anything repetitive, any redundancies, combine. And AI is a great help in this. I mean, I can basically take my entire manuscript and ask Grok, are there any chapters that are in the wrong section? Or does it flow consistently? I mean, Grok is my editor. If you're an author and you're trying to get a publisher so you can get a high-end editor to help you with your manuscript, you don't need it anymore. AI can actually do that. It's not right. It can, but you don't need it to write for you. But you can have it critique your writing. And so I'm like, hey, I'm writing this for an audience, this age, this demographic, how marketable is it, etc. So let me continue to go through my notes. I got a printer yesterday, and it was quite a ordeal. See, I went to Facebook Marketplace, and the first person I went to go buy the printer from stood me up, and it was in a shady part of town. So the next person met me at a gaming shop and didn't mention that they didn't have the cords or ink, but I don't complain. You know, I'm just polite about it. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just go find the stuff. So I had to go through about 5 different thrift shops to find the right cords. And then I had to hunt down the ink. And then I had to hunt down an employee to open the case where the ink is stored. Because a lot of the stores here are now behind plexiglass. You know, I made this, I said we're gonna know things are bad when the dollar store starts locking things up. You know, they're locking up like the refrigerators of the dollar stores in some parts of town, locking them up. So you want a cold beverage or you want some Lunchable or something, you've got to go talk to them. That's insane. Like, is this a prison? It's like the prison commissary. Like, this isn't customer service. But this to me all just sounds like a concerted attack on the free market itself, as 2020 was. Because they don't want us to be able to make decisions and choices for ourselves. They want that all centralized. And so when you're on Mars, you're all going to be eating the same, potato soup every night. It's not like you're going to have diverse menus and restaurants competing for your dollar, because there won't be dollars on Mars. Space communism. And I'm not advocating capitalism or communism. These are just kind of ideals that people have and fight over. But I'm just talking about the script and where this thing is leading to in the future. And one of the common themes in the script is the sinking of the West, the fall of the West. What's up, Mike D? Andy, Esteban, R. Cook. Yeah, the goods will be locked up on the Mars base. And the Mars base, by the way, is going to be underground. Because they're talking about sending people to Mars. It's not going to be on the surface because it's not terraformed. So people who go to Mars aren't going to know that they're actually being hyperlooped to some deep underground military base in China, where you're surreptitiously being sold as slaves to the Chinese government, thinking that you're representing the vanguard of human evolution and driving humanity into becoming a multi-planetary species. And it's like, no, you're actually in a dungeon. Awin Garden says, Tim, we're definitely dealing with NPCs and filler people that is in their own simulation. Well, let me add to that. So the NPC is somebody who's not using their own agency. They're following the script. And to the degree that you're a world stager, meaning you adhere to the meta script, you believe the fake news, you believe the fake history, if that's where you are, if you're on the world stage and you're following the script, then you're an extra. You're essentially like a video game NPC. But it doesn't mean their heads are empty. It means that they're nullified and complacent and obedient and they've adapted. And is that bad? I guess it's a matter of opinion. Like, I'm not trying to wake up the blue pill sleepers. Because the only thing they have to wake up to is the red pill nightmare, where they're suddenly afraid of clouds. So they're better off that way. I haven't ruled out that this is possibly a benevolent dictatorship. It's totalitarianism for our own good. Possibly. All right, let's see here. Got into this already. Yeah, simulation rebranded as God. Not going to go through all of this now, but I just want to say it's not distinct from religion. It's a rebranding of the metaphysical structure using technical language. And so if somebody's bringing simulation theory into the conversation, you have to treat them as though they were bringing God into the conversation. And I'm not against that, but I'd question the relevance. I would really hey, look, the Simpsons episode seems to have predicted what's happening in the news. Oh, well, God did that. You see, that's not a satisfactory answer. It doesn't satisfy anything. It's not a satisfactory answer to what we're describing. It doesn't add anything to the conversation, and it's very dismissive. Like, nothing you guys are thinking about or examining or researching has any validity because it's all done by the sim. You have no agency. You're just following a script. Like, no, we can be done with that garbage. And the reason why we need to be done with it is this. All of the people who fell into these wrong explanations, the erroneous explanations, have not left the world stage. They've remained in the MSM plus box and haven't rejected wholesale the world stage as a model in order to have stepped outside of it where our perspective comes from. MSM minus the subtractive. We subtract what we can't verify. Informed disbelief and agnosticism. That's the route we take here. And unfortunately, a lot of great minds, a lot of intelligent people are caught up in these intellectual cul-de-sacs because they've accepted bad explanations that have negated the need for further research. And if your model's broken, get a new one. And so we have broken the false flag model. We have broken revelation of the method, lower powers model. We have broken sync theory as an explanation for media coincidences. So these are bad models. And anybody adhering to those models needs to hear this. And they need to decide. Am I going to remain in a subset of the Truman Show, thinking I have all the answers, or am I going to exit the Truman Show and take into account when I assess the world the news-bent history and what that entails? It's not a small deal. But the main guardrail keeping people on the world stage is the ego. And that's a chapter in this book I have. Ego is the final guardrail. Can you admit that you've been wrong for a long time? Can you admit that you may have profited off of spreading wrong answers? There's no shame in it. I mean, honestly, we were all wrong. And we're at the point where, as far as we go, we're having to lean into agnosticism because we recognize the known unknowns. We have the humility to carry around a bunch of question marks instead of parading around wrong answers. But again, it's the intellectual cul-de-sac of this is all explained by a higher power, no more research needed. And more research reveals what is the only legitimate conspiracy, and it's a successful one. It's the biggest one, and apparently nobody in Trutherville can see it. And the conspiracy is the world stage model. It is the worldview monopoly. It is the surreptitious religious paradigm that has been imposed on us without us noticing. It's the program. The program is the conspiracy. And so the IPSD program, A Skeptic's Guide to the Theater of Psywar, is designed to pull people out of the program. You have to reframe your perspective on media to be inclusive of media fakery, to be inclusive of psyops and the cumulative effect of decades of unchecked fake news, all of it driven by government-controlled media. Yeah, one of the chapters is also called Dupable. Quay says, agree, Tim, there's no shame in admitting we've been duped. We are inherently dupable. I like to use the magic show analogy because if you're at a magic show, you're paying to be duped. They are exploiting vulnerabilities in your perception to trick you. But just because you know that they're tricks doesn't mean that you can automatically reverse engineer these things. They're very complicated sometimes. So if you don't have enough information to deconstruct a trick, do you walk away saying, wow, that was some real magic? No, you don't. And when I see these obvious psyops, but I'm looking for, like, well, how do I it looks fake to me. It seems fake, but how do I actually describe it as fake if the visuals don't give it away? Well, you have to suspend judgment and find additional information. So I did have some comments here. Monolithium, 33 milligrams, said, I had to look up instrumentum regni, thanks. A good phrase can save a lot of waffle. Yeah, that's a phrase referring to the use of superstition to maintain the cohesion of the Roman state. Superstition is used every day. I mean, weaponized superstition, weaponized ignorance, but it's just been rebranded. We are in a very superstitious society as far as how we process things, how we think about things. There's a reason why a lot of people who still believe in 100% of the dominant paradigm accept the premise that there's aliens, or they're easily tricked about drones swarming over New Jersey. It's because their operating system is based on believing sources that they've outsourced their intel gathering to. It's not as critical as ours. Ank G says, the very concept of outer space is infantilizing and promotes arrested development. I think you may be onto something. You know, Big Brother is a colossal narcissist, but there's a reason why I think that the different gods that we've been shown in various religions, that they mimic the family, like the imperial cults. Like when I talk about the Proud Boys and the Soy Boys fighting in the streets, it's like you shouldn't be on either side because both of them represent arrested development. Imagine calling yourself a proud boy and you're fighting the Soy Boys, competing for the favor of daddy government. And I remember during the first term of Trump, they were calling Donald Trump daddy. I'm like, okay, that's definitely infantilizing. Let's see here. Ryler05 says, the whole idea of taking pills seems pharmaceutical coded. I wonder who came up with that. My response was, it's almost as though we live in a vast mental asylum, and the more unruly minds need harder meds. And that's true, because if the blue pill isn't subduing you, they give you a red pill. Like, I see through everything. This doesn't work for me. Here, take these pills. Okay, now it makes sense. 5G towers are terrifying, and those clouds are actually toxic, and we're all going to die. Off-world stage is a no pill. There's no pill for it. I mean, there are some white pills, which are, you know, things to know that are kind of nice. Like, hey, nobody died at this event. Nukes are probably fake. Oh, by the way, I was listening to a segment of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has been making a lot of progress on explaining the rationale behind faking the moon landing and how likely it was. And I'm not saying that he's waking up or he's thinking. No, I think he's part of the breakdown of that particular psyop when they may actually reveal that it was a PR stunt to trick the Russians. But that space is still real, but that particular event was fake. So it's a guardrailed explanation because it doesn't lead you to the full conclusion. And so I think they're willing to sacrifice that one event in order to preserve the entire space program. It's all chess with these people. So if you see Joe Rogan leading the charge to breaking down Apollo 11, don't think it's progress, because they won't touch the ISS. They won't touch the moon bases. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the other day I was talking about Reverend Sung Young Moon, the Moonies, and the son of Reverend Sung Young Moon is Reverend Sean Moon, and he's got a church called Biblical Rod of Iron in Pennsylvania. They call the AR-15 the Rod of Iron, that God gave us the AR-15s to create a kingdom of peace where armed citizens flourish and protect each other. So with that, you have a whole lot of MAGAs carrying guns to church. Smart move, though. If my dad was a cult leader, like a globally recognized cult leader, with missionaries everywhere selling wind chimes with the hopes of getting an arranged marriage later within the cult, I would probably stay in the business. I heard Eric Trump's going to run, and I think Chelsea Clinton's going to run. What's up, Dr. Back Asswords, King Ravana, Skyfishes? That's a great analogy. Well, yeah, I'll have more in the upcoming days. I'm probably going to get the rest of those videos uploaded today if I can, actually. And one of the videos is about the magic show as an analogy. Because that's one of the things about the world stage, is we have to approach this as a magic show, meaning it's designed to dupe you. If you're at a magic show and you're sitting in your seat, you will not be able to see through it. Anybody can say, oh, that's fake. Yeah, you're stating the obvious. How is it faked? And that's why I want to distance from truthers who say, oh, everything's fake. Because a lot of them do say that. It's like, well, tell me how it's fake. It looks fake. Trump's ear wound looks fake to me. Well, maybe after you've had more information, but did the initial video look fake, objectively speaking? No. Did Psycho Stu getting beaten by Raja Jackson look fake at first glance? Objectively speaking, no. The magic show is pretty flawless there. But when you slow it down, when you look closer, it all falls apart. So we can't be the low information believers who believe headlines, nor should we be the low information disbelievers who just call everything fake and sound arrogant and overconfident. Like, I don't argue as like, hey, I'm the expert in seeing through what's on the screen. Listen to me, appeal to my authority. Not at all. We have to be able to admit when we're fooled, when we're foolable, when our eyes are being fooled. Hank G says, and we're bombarded 24/7 with all the tricks. Well, one of the processes that we're doing here with auto-hoaxology, this methodology, is how do you approach the information in such a way that you can categorically reject claims? How do you process through 48 hours of news every single day without getting submerged? And the way that we stay buoyant is we refuse to carry the burden of proof. It's the burden of proof that weighs you down in the sea of irrelevance that you take on that's not yours. The informed disbeliever isn't carrying any such weight. We're not the propaganda mules with saddlebags full of red pills chasing rotten red carrots. No, I'm not carrying anybody's burden. If you can't prove it, I'm not going to believe you. And if you don't like that, then you're not a good journalist. You're not a good news agency if you can't back your own claims. You have no business making the reports. I mean, one of the things about the Psycho Stu beating that struck me is every single news report says he got hit 23 times. The video doesn't show that. And if this is being treated as a crime, you wouldn't be so flippant about misdescribing the evidence. And by the way, you know, his dad's talking about it a lot. It's like, I'm sorry, if this is a crime, why are you out there convicting him of guilt? You know, being going along with these narratives that might hurt his case. And then what's more, regarding this Rajah Jackson, he hasn't been arrested yet. He has not been arrested. What does that tell you? And I'm watching some of the footage of his dad talking to various people, and honestly, it's coming off as World Wrestling Entertainment kayfabe soap opera. It's less believable as time goes on. DeWitt Les says the TV news reporters have no legal obligation to tell you the truth. No, they don't. Infotainment. It's entertainment. Fox News entertainment. They are not doing you a service of giving you objective information for your own edification. And beyond that, even if you're a journalist and you're telling the truth and you're doing real reporting, if your POV is world stage, you're a liar. You can't help it, and you won't even know it. If your perspective is resting atop an edifice of known lies and distortions, and you're not aware of it, and you're not aware of the PSYOP entertainment complex, then nothing that you say can be said to be objective and true. The entire infrastructure of news media is reality compromised. And that's just a fact. The alternative media even more so. The only truly objective news organization out there, and this is absolutely true, is the IPS think tank. Because if you're not consciously operating from outside of the world stage construct, you cannot claim objectivity. The objectivist society cannot claim objectivity after all of their philosophic meanderings through the world stage. Anyway, phone's about to die. Just a heads up, lots of videos are going to be uploaded here. And then we'll be back on a regular schedule here very, very soon. I'm trying to get into a studio, an office, so that we can do a regularly scheduled program with open phones. So thanks for joining. We'll be back.